it's important to, while you're going through your process, while you're going through your own personal journey, to stop and smell the roses, smell the flowers, look at what you've done, look at what you've completed
Yes.
throughout your time that you have been chasing your dream. I think that's also most important. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Everything's Okay, a mental health podcast brought to you by Crazy Ant Media. Today, we're diving into something that doesn't really get talked about enough: the fear of success. Why do we self sabotage when things are finally going so well? And what's hiding underneath all of that fear? As always, I'm here and joined by my co host and father in law, Dustin. How are you doing today, man?
I am doing pretty well. Pretty well. I'm excited. Yeah, it just feels good to get back and start talking about mental health again, right? Like,
I know we've
yeah.
both been so busy recently just trying to figure out our lives. You got an upcoming birthday and travel plans coming up, and I got school, wedding, or the marriage, obviously, but freaking this, work, all the fun stuff. But yeah, just trying to figure it out and scheduling things. And I think that's what really, it makes it scary because you're scared of all of the work you have to put into trying to be successful. And I mean, it is very time consuming. It is something that you do have to make sacrifices for. But then at the end of the day, you're always so happy that you make those sacrifices.
Oh, absolutely. And we've talked about this on past shows and going to be talking about it more throughout, I'm sure, but it's balance. I think the key is really just finding that balance. You can do it all. You just have to balance how you do it all and not get into I know early on this year for me, it's been because of the health issues towards the end of last year, we fell behind on some of our projects and we hadn't done some things or whatever. So I have been so run and gun, run and gun. We got to catch up. We got to get back on track. We got to get this. We got to get that. I kind of just forgot about life. It's all been consumed about we got to catch up. We got to do all these things. I'm like, but you gotta live too, man. You gotta enjoy, stop and smell the roses, if you will. And so I've been really over the past week or so, 2 weeks or so, going slow down. You gotta, hence the travel plans and stuff. Take a break, enjoy life a little bit. Everything's still there. It's not going anywhere. It's gonna be good.
Yes, most definitely. And it's always interesting too because we've talked about it a lot. Once you feel like you stop learning, that's when you get left behind.
Sure.
And I feel like, you're never chasing that one particular moment, that one particular feeling where you feel like, okay, I've made it. Okay, now I'm successful. Now you're never going to find that because you're always want to continue to keep working, continuing chasing the dream. And there's nothing wrong with that, just as long as you do it properly
Yeah.
in the sense of making sure you take care of your mental health and making sure that the people around you realize that you're still chasing your dream, but you're also taking time for yourself, for your loved ones to make sure that everything correlates the way it's supposed to and make sure that you're happy overall because that's the biggest thing, making sure you're happy because when you get overwhelmed and you get frustrated and you get down and out and then you sit in that can definitely throw you off track to where you're not chasing your dream anymore. Now you're sitting in wallowing where you cannot get back up and still chase the dreams. And I mean, that's like with procrastination and with over preparing yourself and then never starting. I mean, I know there's been certain instances where we're like, yes, we have this amazing idea and we're like super all in, but then like we have all of this other stuff going on as well. So it's
Yeah.
not like we can take away from that and then strictly go back to this specific new idea. So it's all about moderation with all of the small things.
Absolutely, and it's funny. This topic, I feel like when people talk about this topic of fear of success, for me, when we talked about doing this one, I was kind of excited about it, and I think anybody that's known me at any point at all during my life will wholeheartedly agree with this statement. I have never feared success. I always knew I would be successful in whatever I did. In fact, and carried myself that way. I was always confident. Many would say cocky or arrogant. And that's just true. That's the way I've always came. I never feared success because I always knew I would be successful at what I was ever going to try to do. My fear came more of what happens after that. What happens with how my relationships with family and friends? How is my success going to affect that? Or even my circle, the people that I have around me all the time, my closest people. And I was always fearful of that. On top of, I think the other thing that I always was in the back of my mind is, and I think this had a lot to do with not always having the support of my family, and a few friends way back in the day of what I was trying to do and being. So once that success came, I was always worried about two things. One, the imposter syndrome, right? We hear about it all the time, but people not believing the success, not buying into it, even though you know it's real. And two, because of that type attitude, because of those type things, falling into the mindset, which is definitely not mentally healthy, of you're not worthy somehow of the success, or you don't deserve that success. So for me, that was always kind of what it was. It was never the fear of the success itself. Hell no. I was going for that. It was the fear of what happens when I get that success. And yeah, that's been a roller coaster to say the very least. Some of those fears absolutely came true, and I'm still dealing with some of those fears every day. But that's what it is, right? Like,
Well, especially in this industry, it is not overnight. We
no,
always talk
yeah,
about,
yeah,
10 years overnight. You putting in the time, putting in the effort, and then finally getting to a point where you feel like you have achieved some of your goals throughout the line. But I mean, it's important to, while you're going through your process, while you're going through your own personal journey, to stop and smell the roses, smell the flowers, look at what you've done, look at what you've completed
yes,
throughout your time that you have been chasing your dream. I think that's also most important. But what something that I fall into is always being so excited about things and being so excited to tell other people about my achievements and about my goals and about my dreams. And then they don't react the way I want them to react. I also want them to
yeah,
be as excited as I am. And so that's a pitfall, in my opinion, where I fall into the trap of holding my happiness and holding my successes up to other people's standards, which is not okay. It needs to be my own personal thing. It needs to be my success, and I need to be happy for it. And nobody's going to feel the excitement for my dreams and my achievements more than I am going to.
exactly, yeah,
So being able to step away from that, I feel like is very important because, like I said, there's a lot of important people in my life. There's a lot of important people who I feel like have become my mentors, or I feel like who has been with me since the beginning, watching my dreams since I was that kid in Indiana, getting into trouble. But now with being where I'm at and telling specifically those people from my childhood and from my young years, and them not really understanding just because they don't understand like the magnitude of it, right? This past week, even, or not this past week, but this past episode for Everything's Okay, I was like, this is crazy. We got Jennifer Hale. This is like going to be the biggest Everything's Okay podcast overall, in general, like one of the biggest, most notable voice actresses of all time.
right.
But then, when I go out and tell layman's people, normal people, that they have no idea who she is. They have no idea some of the projects she's been in. So it's really not putting my eggs in their complimentary baskets. I don't need them to gratify me. I don't need them to continue to, build up my confidence when I should already have my established confidence. But that's the world we live in, right? We're not perfect. We're all trying to go through our own journey and figure out what the best way is to keep us grounded but motivated and continue moving forward at the same time.
Yeah, I think this is true just in life in general or any other industry that you may work in, but especially in the industry that we're in, the entertainment industry. I think that the most successful people have circles that are a blend. I
Hmm.
think you need people that are in the industry and as passionate about it as you are, because you do need those people to get pumped up when you get pumped up, and to get fired up, and to be excited when you're excited. But you also need people that, like I said, who are not in the industry and may not get fired up or excited, but will support you. They're happy for you. Right. It's not the same type of happiness. They're not fired up. They're not excited. They're not like, oh my God, we did this or we got that, but they're happy for you. And those are the people that, like you just said, will keep you grounded. Will because they're not in the industry and they don't understand and they don't know this person or that person or what this accomplishment meant or didn't mean. So they kind of keep that grounding for you. And I think it's necessary in life and in work to have those people that won't let you get too far ahead of yourself, those people that when they see it starting to go from confidence to cockiness will bring you back down a little bit, right? And that's the thing. And you know, because for me, I've had it both ways. I've had where my circle was nowhere near the entertainment industry, had no idea, and that was defeating because there was nobody that I felt like I could sit down and be excited with and have them share it and get pumped up, right? And that hurt. That was like, I feel like I'm on my own. I'm all alone. Nobody understands me. And then I've had it the other way where it's only people that are in the industry and fired up and pumped up and happy for me. And the flip side happened. I didn't have anybody that I could just share regular day life with. And the loneliness set in again. So that's kind of like what I was talking about at the top with my fear of how will this affect my relationships with people. And I have found over the years to try to find that balance. If we would go back to the balance part of, put people in your circle that are in it with you. They're riding the highs and the lows and they're excited and they get it and they have the passion and build something. And then have those people that are just there for you, that are happy for you but don't have a clue. You know, they could care less if we just landed Jennifer Hale, but they're happy that you did. And that's the kind of people that you also need. So I don't know. How are you finding? Are you finding a nice little blend where like they might have no idea, but hey man, great job if you're happy, right?
Yeah, it is very interesting because some of my best friends, they're always very excited and very like interested in what I do, but I'm the type of person who likes to grind quietly.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
we've talked about multiple times. I have two different personas, two different personalities where I'm my anti-social, don't fuck with me, leave me alone type person where I'm like barely even talking to my wife. And then I have like this outward public persona, this podcast persona, but everything's okay is a little different because I get to get in touch with my feelings and things like that. But have this podcast persona, this filmmaker persona where like I can go up and network with people. I can go up and talk to people and be able to do that. So it's a very interesting balance because when I talk to my layman's normal friends who are going through life with me, seeing the journey that I'm on, and like when they bring up certain things, I'm like, oh yeah, it's almost like I'm telling them things from a past life because I haven't switched back to that
Right.
persona yet. It's so very interesting because I always talk about, I feeling like I live multiple different lives, but feeling like you live multiple lives at the same time is kind of an interesting process that I'm trying to blend and trying to get better with it because specifically right now at school it's helping a lot because it's my normal everyday self, going to events and doing the concerts, but being able to shoot the concerts with videography and photography and then presenting it, it's still my normal everyday self. So I'm trying to find the balance to where it's not so drastically different, my two personalities and my two personas, to where like it's more blended into one. But I've always felt like a chameleon though. Like because I come from a divorced family growing up. So if I was at my dad's house, I would act a certain way. If I was at my mom's house, I would act a certain way. If I was out with friends, I would act a different way from those two situations. So it's a gift and a curse because I've always felt like I've been able to adapt to everything, but then not find myself at the same time. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Right, and I like that. I like that you use the word adapt because I think people fall into that trap of there's a difference between adaptability and not being authentic, right?
Right.
Adapting to a situation and putting on a face that fits for that situation means you're not living your authentic self. You're not being true to who you really are. You're adapting to what the situation needs.
Right.
And I think the key to mental health and happiness is to find a way for your authentic self to be in that what's needed in that room, not to pretend to be something that's needed in the room, but to be what's needed in the room as yourself. And that is the key, and that's not always easy to
Mm-mm.
do. And yeah, as far as the personas go, and yeah, nobody ever believes me when I say that I like to just be quiet and sit by myself, watch TV, just like I don't want to talk to people. I don't like to talk on the phone. They're like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like to talk on the phone. I don't really like to text. I enjoy my alone time. I go off grid where I just go away for a week at a time. They're like, no way. But I think that's, part of regrouping and rebalancing and leveling the field so that you're not living in that fear of, because I think there is definitely, let's be honest about it. I want to go back to what you were touching on about how the 10 years to be an overnight success. There are societal expectations anyway, right? People put it on a timeline for everybody, when you should be married, when you should have a kid, when you should have a house, and even more so in work. Well, if you're not making this much by that time, or you haven't accomplished this by that time, there's those expectations. And in our industry, for anybody outside of our industry, they don't understand. They don't
Mm-mm.
understand the process or what it is. And I think what you were talking about earlier, and I love the idea of every day putting something that you did in a jar and then going back at the end of the year and opening up that jar and realizing everything that you've actually accomplished, right? I liked your post the other day when you were showing, because I think sometimes we fall victim to that societal pressure and go, well, maybe we haven't lived up to it. Maybe we've been doing this for all these years and we haven't been successful. But you need to take that moment and look back and go, shit, we did that. We did this. We accomplished that. We have been successful. And so you need to not fall into the trap of or the fear of other people's expectations. Like you said, not just the part about them being as happy or pumped up as you, but the part about when they come at it with a misunderstanding of where you're at or how you've done or not done with what you're trying to do. Because I think that's a big part of it too, especially people in this industry when they have outside people that just don't get it. Well, you've been doing this for 8 years, and what have you done? What have you done? Blah, blah. It's like, well, let me show you what I've done, right? But then you get into that habit of sounding, again, going back to what my fear was, arrogant or cocky or like you're better than them. And you look at who's this. No humility there, no humble there. It's like, well, so how do you play into that? Like, you're telling me I can't talk about my accomplishments, but then you belittle when you don't know my accomplishments. So it's talk about a mental health, conundrum where it just drives you crazy. It's like, well, how can I express to you what I've accomplished when I do that, you're saying I'm conceited and an arrogant asshole kind of so it's walking that fine line because if you don't learn to balance it, you do walk in fear.
Mm-hmm.
You just do. You're almost embarrassed by your success, which you don't ever want to be embarrassed by your success.
No, never, not at all. And I mean, be going through the process and realizing, that you're not going to be the best at everything. You're not going to, outshine others in every single role because I think I have a problem with that too. And I want to touch on, bringing up the differences between like trying to compete and then also like staying in your lane. I don't know. It's always very interesting because anytime that anyone like tries to do a podcast, tries to video stuff, tries to edit stuff. Like I always have this problem of trying to be the best and trying to be better. And I think that's always just me trying to prove myself. So
Right,
that's
right.
all that's always something that I'm fighting with every single day. So that can be very interesting and very different to where like I don't feel like I'm as humble as I should be sometimes, but then like other times it helps me step back and reflect like, hey, they're just doing what they like. They're not like trying to copy you or trying to imitate you. They're doing that because they like it too. So, I mean, trying to balance it and not being an asshole. And because we all let our own like narrative, our own freaking um, basically our own asshole come out to where we're just trying to be the best that we can be. And sometimes that means putting other people to the side or like shitting on other people, which it shouldn't be like that. So to try to overcome that, I feel like is very important and something I'm definitely trying to do as well because everybody has these problems. Everybody is just everyday human beings that is going through something, that's for sure. I mean, we have people like Maya Angelou who admitted that they were exposed as a fraud despite her massive success. So, I mean, there's different anecdotes and personal celebrities that go through certain things to where everybody's always trying to point fingers at why they're not as successful as they should be, right? I know right now I just saw the Jenna Ortega thing for Screen
Right,
7 a
right.
couple weeks ago came out the truth of why she left that set. And it's always like, you have to put yourself in the best situation to be successful. And if you don't think something is going to be successful, despite you attempting to help continue make it successful, then there's no reason for you to be there. And I think that's an important antidote too. Remove yourself from things that are not going to be successful, definitely after you try to help it continue being successful.
Which we've done with this very
We have
company. We have had to remove ourselves from a situation that we knew at one point would not be successful if we stayed the
a
course.
few of them, man, a few of
Yeah.
them.
But when you do that and you're smart enough to recognize that, you will see success, which we have.
Yep.
And so yeah, that's very important. And going back to what you were saying, my observation is I think where I see you struggle is you are competitive and you want to say I can do that better than that. This is the way you should do it, kind of a thing. And I think you're so worried about not being an asshole that you sometimes lose being proud of your accomplishments. Like you almost don't want to say I'm really good at that. I can do this better, or I can show you a way that works, kind of a thing, because you're so worried about how it's perceived, that you might be perceived as an asshole, that you don't take credit for what you can do. And so that's a balancing trick too. You don't ever want to belittle your own accomplishments or your skill set or what you're capable of doing out of fear that somebody might perceive that as cocky or being an asshole. You're just proud of what you can do. And look, let's be honest about it. Competitiveness, especially in our industry, you see a lot of successful people in our industry get there by not always being nice, by being competitive, by proving they're better at something than someone else. I think there's a plus to that. I think we talk about this all the time, that in anything that you're trying to do, you have to be a little bit of an asshole to succeed. I think where you have to balance it is you also have to give back, right? If you're competitive and kind of an asshole at a certain point to get to where you're trying to get and do what you do, if you can take once you've gotten there and share and give back and allow other people to get there, then I feel that's the balance, right? Because you're not an asshole. You just had to be what you had to be to get to a point, and now you want to help bring others to that point. That's definitely not an asshole. That's somebody who cares about others and wants to see others succeed. And, not everybody is capable of that switch, that on and off switch of I've got to be aggressive and mean, maybe. So if you can flip the switch for them and help them get to that next level, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's just, yeah. We talk about it all the time about giving back. And I think that, it's very important that if you do gain success, if you are able to get to a place in life where you're feeling pretty good and things are rolling, lend that helping hand. Make sure everybody else is getting there too, whatever it is, especially in your personal relationships, right? Because I think that's when trouble also creeps in. If you're seeing a lot of success in what you're trying to do and maybe somebody in your life on a personal level is not, that can cause some friction. That can cause some problems. And so that support of being there for someone else in their journey and what they're trying to accomplish, also is critical in not having to live in fear of your own success while worrying about whether somebody around you is not as successful. Because I think that's another thing that stews the fire into that fear. You're scared to be successful because somebody maybe close to you is not at the moment. They're struggling. And so your fear creeps in about, I can't say that I'm successful. I can't go home and say I did this today or I did that today because they had a bad day. Well, they had a bad day. It doesn't take away from your accomplishments, and you shouldn't be in fear of saying but you have to balance that support. You have to say your day is coming, or what can I do to help you get to that success? How can, it's that, again, surrounding yourself and making self your circle of people that are the right people.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And we want to ask our audience too. When was the last time that you all hesitated to go after something big because you were afraid of success, because you had anxiety to get in front of you before actually chasing the goal to achieve your dreams? I know I just had it this past week because of the success I'm sure a lot of people have seen with Impact Live and doing everything like that with the videos and the podcasts and the photos and things like that. Like, that has opened up the door to different opportunities for me to connect with bands and different things like that. But because of regular job, because of Crazy Ant, because of this, I'm always making excuses like that. I didn't pursue an opportunity to take pictures of a future band. But then I also just realized that I think it's next week, not this week. So that's also awesome. So, but I did take the initiative to finally reach out, take an email, and or send an email to try to make that happen. But yes, we want to know, when was the last time that you hesitated after going after something big? Because I mean, success doesn't just mean more pressure. We want to emphasize that it can actually mean more freedom, more choice, and more fulfillment. I think that's actually amazing to be able to, continue moving forward and breaking into what you want to be, because to break goals into smaller wins to make success feel less overwhelming actually helps a lot. Because
huge.
Like, if you're looking at it in a grand scope, then you're putting a lot of pressure, you're putting a lot of anxiety on top of your shoulders. So if you break it up into those small tidbits, that's what we were talking about earlier, taking time to smell the flowers, see what you've done, see what you're doing, break it up week by week. I think that makes it more successful, because if you focus on why you want success, not just the outcome, but the personal reason behind it. We want to be filmmakers because we want to tell stories.
Right.
We want to have the ability to make something magical. Like, I can't tell you how many times on ItCaf we've talked about amazing monologues, amazing films that make us cry. I want to create something that makes someone feel something.
Yes.
I want to create a film, a music video, a social media clip. I want to create something that moves somebody emotionally and physically to where they feel motivated to get up and continue moving forward. I think that is a big thing, right?
art that makes an impact. That's what
Hmm.
drives us. That literally every day. It's like if we can do what we love to do and impact somebody's life for generations to come, there's no greater form of success in my mind than that. And art gives you the chance and the ability to do that. I like what you said though about the definition of success and breaking it down into smaller goals. If you come into it and you're like, I want to be a filmmaker, and I'm only going to be successful if I win an Oscar. Well, that's unrealistic. Maybe you will win an Oscar, and that's great. But if that is success and everything below that is failure, then you're likely going to be a failure. Yeah, yeah. So you have to come into it and go, there's nothing wrong if I never win an Oscar, if I had 25 films that were box office hits, if I had a film that saved someone's life, if I told a story that was retold numerous times in different ways. There are many different things so you didn't get that Oscar. It doesn't mean you failed. And so I like the idea of breaking it down. I just want to have a film that's theatrically released. I want to have a film that was a box office success. I want to have a film that somebody wanted to make a remake of. I want to have a film that had a big star in it. Build those things to the Oscar. If you do that, you're probably going to get the Oscar much sooner than you would have if you were only shooting for the Oscar. That's the thing. Success is many different than we're already successful filmmakers. You know why? Because we made films. Like, that is a successful filmmaker. If you got a camera, picked it up, and shot something, edited it, and put it out there for the world to see, you are already a successful filmmaker. And I'm only saying that, and forget filmmaking, forget what we do for a minute. Whatever you're trying to do, if you have taken that first step, if you have done anything on that journey, you are already successful. Don't fear that. Don't hide from that. Don't be ashamed to say that. Know that and live it and love it. That's.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Because I mean, the fear of success is more common than people even realize. And it's often about fear of change, judgment, and losing control.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it, because stepping outside of the box, I'm sure everybody has heard this a million plus times. Stepping out of the side of the box actually opens the doors to a world that you may not ever know if you never step outside that box. So I think it's very important. And we do want to make a call to action as well. What's one goal you've been hesitating on? Think about it, whether the fear of success is holding you back. And if it is, what's one small step? It doesn't have to be anything big that you can take this specific week to push past that. We want to know.
And
Be
I'll
sure
tell
to
you what,
keep moving forward.
yeah, and I'm going to give a little prompt there because of an interview that we just had, that we just did, and it kind of plays into my own life as well. But here's a little prompt for anybody out. If your fear or maybe the hesitation of what's holding you back is your age, you think it's too late to get started, you think that dream's passed you by, it has not. We literally just interviewed somebody that didn't even start until they were 50 years old, and they are rocking and rolling. It is never too late. So there's just a prompt. There's an idea. If you're hesitant because you think it's passed you by, you're too old, how can you possibly have success? Go for it.
That's right, man. That's right. Please be sure to do so. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Everything's Okay. We really appreciate it. Next time you see us, we'll be talking about reparenting ourselves. This is going to be a
Ah,
crazy conversation, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And of course, like I said, we appreciate all of your loves and support. This podcast is dedicated to anyone who has ever had an uphill battle with mental health. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but the important thing is to always keep getting back up And just know that us here at Crazy Ant Media are here for you as well. So be sure to reach out anytime you can. info@crazyantmedia.com. You
Yep.
can email us. You can find us on X, Threads, Twitter, Instagram, all the places. We love to respond to people. So please be sure to do that. And of course, always remember and always subscribe to the podcast as well. Everything's okay podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we're under the Crazy Ant Media YouTube page. And of course, another thing to always remember is everything's okay.